We came with big appetites.
With Expedia, you can book a flight, hotel, car, and activity all in one place. Everything need to go. Expedia.
I was wondering if an electric toothbrush really cleans better than a manual, and my hygienist says it does. But they're not all the same. No, I had no idea. So she said look for one that's shaped like a dental tool with a round brush head.
Go pro with Oral-B. Oral-B's rounded brush head surrounds each tooth to gently remove more plaque. And Oral-B is the first electric toothbrush brand accepted by the American Dental Association for its effectiveness and safety.
My mouth feels so clean. I'll only use an Oral-B.
Oral-B. Brush like a pro.
BP is taking safety glasses to a whole new level, using augmented reality so engineers in the field can share data and get expert backup in the blink of an eye. Because safety is never being satisfied and always working to be better.
We're on a mission to show drip coffee. It's time to wake up to Keurig. Wakey, wakey, rise and shine. How are you? Well, watch this. I pop that in there, press brew, that's it. Look how much coffee's in here. Fresh coffee.
So
That's why you should be a Keurig man.
full-bodied.
Are you sure you're describing the coffee and not me? Do you wear this every day?
Every
I'd
day.
never take it off. Are you ready to say goodbye to it? Guys, go. Ta-da! A terrarium. That's it. We've proved the love, right, guys?
I feel incredibly grateful that I stumbled upon Talkspace. I was matched to the perfect therapist. She makes me think in the best way possible. This has been a life-changing experience.
Join over 1 million people who already text their therapist wherever they go for only $49 a week. Join now and get $50 off. Talkspace, therapy for how we live today.
Innovation is an ever-evolving journey. It stretches our creative vision, pushes us beyond the ordinary, makes the impossible possible. Along the way, we invent the means to make our lives brighter, safer, cleaner. Put the gas-like power of Greenworks tools in your hands and lead the charge.
Joining us now, member of the Foreign Relations Committee, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He's making news this morning on his efforts to protect Special Counsel Robert Mueller. We'll get to that in just a moment. Also with us, America's former ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, Ambassador Daniel Baer is with us. But first, Joe, we go to Hong Kong.
So just to follow up on the president's tweet, if you're just joining us, the president tweeted this morning, get ready, Russia. The bombs will be coming, nice and new and smart. You shouldn't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it. That was several minutes ago. He's now followed up with this. Our relationship with Russia is worse now than it has ever been, and that includes the Cold War. There is no reason for this. Russia needs us to help with their economy, something that would be very easy to do, and we need all nations to work together. Stop the arms race, the president asks. Joe.
Yes, and Richard Haas, that is the carrot following the stick. And again, and it's what I had said, what we were talking about before, that yes, there is a possibility for us to sit down and actually improve our relationship with Russia. But certainly we can't do that if Donald Trump seems, as I'll say the word again, obsequious to Vladimir Putin and desperate for a relationship or a friendship with Vladimir Putin, that I will say it and people will get angry. It's just the truth. As Barack Obama was starting to 2007, at the end of 2007, talking about the possibility of an Iranian deal. If the president shows some toughness, there is the possibility of an arm's length agreement with Putin and Syria that could make a difference. What would that agreement look like?
Joe, let me just push back a little bit. The president can't accomplish his foreign policy ends if he's obsequious or has naive views about Vladimir Putin or anybody else. On the other hand, he can't accomplish it if he's overly confrontational. This is a dangerous time. U.S. commitments in Europe are far greater than our capabilities. We still live in an era where the United States and Russia each have thousands of nuclear weapons. Russia has greater military assets in Syria than we do. So the president's style is always to confront and provoke, and then hopefully he creates a context for compromise. He just did it with China in trade. He's doing it with Russia now. This is a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game given that Russia's now essentially a one-dimensional power. Its one dimension is military power. All Vladimir Putin has going for him is nationalism. It's as if nobody in the White House ever read anything about 1962 and the Cuban Missile Crisis. The president's right. We have less of a relationship with Russia now than we did with the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War. But that also is an argument for a little bit of caution. We need to be tough with them, but disciplined tough. This is not tough. This is the reason we've created a National Security Council, to make sure that when we confront our adversaries, we do it in a careful, disciplined manner. This ought to make people take pause.
Well, I agree with you, Richard. We though are in the middle of the Trump administration, and you are exactly right that a lot of negative, harmful rhetoric towards China actually was matched with the president building a relationship with the president there, and we'll see what comes out of that. Again, I'm not defending the president's approach at all. My question, though, remains, and let me go to Senator Chris Coons. Senator, our relationship with Russia is as bad as it has been probably since the early 1980s, maybe 1980. When we refused to send our athletes to the Olympics in Moscow. So the question is, how do we move back from that position? And what does what is the first step in that process? And what could we agree to in Syria with the Russians that would actually help us move towards a more constructive relationship with a country that we have to have a constructive relationship with?
Well, Joe, I'll agree with Richard that the only thing that's worse, the bad plan, is no plan. And it is unclear to those of us in the Foreign Relations Committee or the leadership of Congress exactly what the president's plan is with regards to Syria and, more importantly, Russia.
I understand that. I understand that. You both are saying that. My question to both of you is, what does a constructive plan look like? What should we have people inside the White House advising the president to do? What does that plan look like going forward? We understand Donald Trump is a hothead. We don't want him to be our commander-in-chief. He is. What should James Mattis be recommending to the president this morning that he do to make this relationship more constructive?
First, the president just 2 weeks ago was saying that we should withdraw fully from Syria. I think that partly created this crisis. The president should not withdraw from Syria abruptly. It is our presence on the ground. It is our ongoing engagement with the Kurdish forces that help take out most of ISIS that gives us the presence in Syria that also gives us leverage at the diplomatic
Senator, with all due respect, I understand, Senator. I wrote a column in the Washington Post about that this past week. I agree. So I go back to my question for you, and constructive path forward look like between the United States and Russia? How can we use this crisis? How can we leverage this crisis to actually make a constructive step forward in American-Russian relations? It is a given that Donald Trump is making a terrible mess of things. What should we be doing instead?
Joe, I would be totally in favor of the United States joining the international talks about the future of Syria. These have been quietly going on behind the scenes. We have essentially been a non-participant. And this is the only path I can think of where one day, not anytime soon, you would actually see a successor government. I'd be more than happy to have as soon as we have a Secretary of State, for him to sit down with Sergei Lavrov and talk about the future of Syria. In the meantime, though, we need to, as the senator said, keep control of the 25% of Syria that the Syrian Kurds have. If anything, I'd potentially maybe even slightly increase the U.S. force presence there just to send a message. Whatever we do punitively now is a message sender. But the real question is, let's begin to reestablish a diplomatic relationship with Russia. For example, there hasn't been a congressional delegation there in 4 or 5 years. Let's Let's begin those again. So let's be both tougher with them with sanctions, with our military force, but also more interactive with them diplomatically. We need to get both sides of this right.
I agree that we need to have delegations.
What do you think?
I agree that we need to have congressional delegations engage with the Russian government, and President Trump's ambassador to Moscow has specifically urged that. Russia blocked the most recent delegation of senators to go to Moscow for meetings. We also have to hold Russia accountable for Assad's murderous actions against his own people. Sure. He can't just use chemical weapons against his own people without consequences. So we need to commit to staying in the country. We need to hold Russia accountable for the crimes being committed by Assad and actively engage in a diplomatic strategy, which includes being willing to commit to helping rebuild Syria if there is a future transition in government post-Assad.
Okay, so Ambassador Baer, why don't we bring you in this way? How holding Russia accountable, obviously easier said than done. What are the pitfalls?
Sure, obviously easier said than done, and also obviously